For far too long, the effective management of the customer's experience has been considered a soft skill. But today, successful companies recognize that the customer experience is king, or from my perspective, is queen. Welcome to CX Unplugged. I'm Gabrielle Gonzalez, your host, and in this series, you will hear from me and other industry experts about how prioritizing the customer experience led to amazing outcomes. Brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of CX Unplugged on the Multifamily Media Network. I'm so happy today to have an esteemed guest with us to share his insights about his experience in property management and customer experience in that space. I have Geremiah Gonzalez, who attended the Ball State Residential Property Management Program and is currently working for Widener Apartment Homes, managing over 500 units as a community director. Looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much for being with us, Geremiah.
Thank you so much, Gabrielle. Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited about the conversation, and let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Well, it's interesting. One of the things I pointed out was obviously that you attended the Ball State Residential Property Management Program. That's many years ago now.
Yeah.
And you've kind of been had many roles since then. But I think you had sort of an interesting entree into the world of multifamily. Would you mind kind of sharing that with us a little bit? It might help other folks who are considering the industry and or the program.
Yeah, certainly. When I first started in the industry, it was actually with you. You pulled me into the club of the multifamily industry, and actually started off doing some kind of oddball projects. I remember doing some power washing for some communities, and then transferred into a groundskeeping role. Then one day getting pulled in to learn how to do pool maintenance, and then pulled into a turn to learn how to do the maintenance in a turn to do the make ready, eventually landing in a service technician position. And then around that time, that transition, going from maintenance into the office, I was attending the Ball State program, residential property management program. And then I found myself in a very interesting position where I was doing both in-office leasing and maintenance, where I would rent an apartment and then next day be in that apartment, turning it and making it ready for move-in, and then helping the resident move in. And then from there, I found myself a position with Widener Apartment Homes out here in Phoenix, and I've been out here for the last 10 years. And I've worked my way from about 190 unit community to now at 514 units. And it's been a learning experience. I'm certainly grateful for it, getting to learn and appreciate the back end of boots on the ground maintenance aspect of customer service to leasing to a managing position. It's a lot of different viewpoints and all intertwined. And I'm grateful for having perspectives in all of those positions.
Yeah. Wow. When you just kind of laid that all out again, it just got me really thinking, you've probably had a really great journey into this industry. And like you said, so many points of view to learn. And I bet that's helped you understand those challenges in each one of those roles, right, along the way in your current position as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. I remember, I think maybe there was a grounds game that I even did with a team I had, and I feel like maybe I had you go out and like place trash on properties that had little
Yeah, that's
stickers on it
right.
that said, if you find me, you can turn it in for cash.
Yeah, I do. I remember that. Wow. That was a long time ago.
That was a lot. Wow, we've both come a long way, huh?
Yeah.
It's funny because you touch on, in all of that too, it touches on the fact that one of the things I like to remind people of is that when we're talking about customer experience, it isn't always just the resident in our context that we're talking about. While it is the resident for sure, there's also a broad spectrum of who the customer really is. And I like to define it as saying, it's anyone who you interact with as a representative of your company, right? So it could be another coworker. It could be, if you're in maintenance, for example, it could be the painter or the cleaner. If you're in the office staff, it could be the guy who brings in the water every week, or the FedEx driver, because any of those people might need a place to live also, and or know someone who needs a place to live. And or if it's a service provider, kind of more of an internal customer, those people will also behave in a way with you based on how they feel treated by you. So you're going to get more out of those people if you treat them really well, like as customers as well. So, all the way around, I guess that was a great entrance for you into this.
It really was.
Business. Yeah. So, when you went into that residential property management program, I'm curious to know if your perspective on what customer service was, like maybe how it evolved or changed from before you went into this business to maybe to now, or if you saw it differently, or if it's influenced any change at all.
Yeah. Well, my initial understanding of customer service was the kind of that staple saying of the customer's always right, and I followed that to a T, where if the customer's upset about something, in this case, if it's a resident or a coworker, that they're most likely or likely justified in their feelings and probably just right in the situation. So I have an obligation to fix it and make them feel better about the situation. And not so much. And so that was my initial understanding of what customer service was. And, in reality, that's not what it is. And I had some hard lessons and some good lessons about how proving that kind of wrong.
I mean, I think you're not alone, really, in that belief, right? That if the customer's upset and they're emotional, then we just need to give them what they wanted, right? Like, and the customer's always right. Like, I'm sure you're not alone in having had that thought process, for sure.
Yeah. When, navigating that. So when in my actual, like on the job experience, you realize that there's no playbook or handwritten instructions for how to navigate every conversation. You learn quickly that you can't control how a customer reacts or responds to some information and or a message that you're delivering. And And so you have to find ways and pivot in multiple directions throughout a conversation. Um, Make sure you end up finding out that there's a balance between, being able to enforce policies or rules and a customer being happy. Those two things can happen. And the customer maybe not getting what they want exactly or not at all, and they're walking away from it. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. That you're bringing that up. You remind me of an old a story from a property I used to work at years and years ago, where I remember when I took over there, residents would come in for their renewals, and they had been renting a washer and dryer. And they would come in and tell me as the new manager that, yeah, I've been renting this washer and dryer now for the last 3 years. I'm going to renew and I'm going to keep the washer and dryer, but it's mine now. Okay. I'm not going to pay for it anymore. And it's mine because I feel like I've paid for it. And I'm like, wait a minute. I've never experienced people telling me like, here's how we're going to do it. I'm like, that isn't how we do it. And I am proud to say that I was able to communicate with these folks in a way that, that explained that is not an option. We're not doing a rent to own option. That's not what we're going to end up doing. We'd love to give you the washer and dryer to continue using. And here's what we're going to pay for that. And, and have them still leave being friendly and good customers. And, that was a blindside one that challenged me, quite a bit.
Yeah, I bet.
And it was clear, that the person before me had that original mindset that you were talking about when they came in, and people said that and they're like, yeah, that's just, the manager was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think of some of the things that people can come up with. So, you've been working, for a while now in the business. I guess, is there anyone that's maybe stood out to you as a mentor or someone who's really helped your perspective of customer service, customer experience in our industry, who's helped that evolve, or maybe any moments or stories of somebody who's really helped you in that space?
Yeah, there are multiple mentors that I would consider that definitely made an impact in my career and in that customer service space. One of my first mentors was my supervisor, Trish, and
I know who that is.
Yeah. In general, we found ourselves, when I was in maintenance, we found ourselves short-staffed, operating, keeping the maintenance afloat through a hard summer. And, in the face of those challenges of weather elements and being short-staffed and maintaining customer service, one thing that really stood out to me is that, Trish, her customer service face, I didn't see that waver in front of customers that may have been upset. And a lesson in a moment where, being able to navigate a conversation with a resident who had been patiently waiting for a service to be completed in their apartment home, and between good communication and empathy, understanding, and getting the service done, the resident was happy, and that was a great lesson to learn from that experience. Is you can't put those negative thoughts or the negative aspect of it. Oh, this resident's going to be upset. They're just going to stay upset, and I just need to fix this and get out of there like quickly. Nope. She acknowledged the issues, took care of the customer, and they were happy. And so that was really, really important to learn, and even better to experience and witness.
Yeah. I bet, from today's perspective, right, managing over 500 units right now, you could probably even really look back and really appreciate even more today than you probably even could then, how much that meant to the residents, being so short staffed and being able to keep her customer face on with the residents, take accountability, and just keep barreling through and getting everything done for them.
Absolutely.
That's whew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
500 unit property, nice part of town, and high expectations is a combination for a lot of opportunities to maybe miss a beat here or there, and opportunities to kind of turn those around into awesome customer experiences. And from those lessons that I've learned from Trish, and applying those bags of tools here in my experience now, definitely came in handy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, big shout out to, do you want to give a specific shout out to that Trish with her last name?
Patricia Darling, thank you so much for leading the way, being a mentor and a leader. It's I learned a lot from that experience, and I carry it with me every day. So
awesome.
Thank you.
That's a great honor. I'm wondering, so now in all of your experience, Geremiah, are there any standout moments, maybe good or bad, that really shaped your approach to customer experience? Maybe a tough situation that taught you a lasting lesson, or a success story that maybe made you proud of how it turned out?
Yeah. Well, there's two scenarios that come to mind, and it really created some pivotal moments in my perspective of customer service. I really went through the gauntlet of, my initial understanding of customer service was the residents upset, and they're emotional. They're probably justified. I feel obligated to fix it. And not necessarily breaking rules, maybe bending some policies a little bit to make the customer happy. And I remember in one scenario where that changed for me, where I was doing a move out inspection with a resident, and going through the motions. You may expect some charges for this and that, and we it came to the carpet, and I mentioned in my experience, in my personal experience, I've seen carpets like this be saved and, may not need to be replaced. And, we're doing the move out statement, and the carpet does need to be replaced. And we sent that off, and the resident really hashed it out to me and held me accountable for my words. And, at the time I was thinking, I want to tell this customer what they want to hear. And then really eating those words afterwards. And even if you slip in a few words, some small words like might or maybe or this, could have, those are kind of out the window, and they're going to hold you accountable for the stuff that they wanted to hear.
Yeah.
And so, from that moment, it was a pivotal change where it was the customer is always right, and they're going to get, whatever they need from me to make them happy. Now to policy enforcer, no rule breaker, and stick to my guns. And so I kind of went the opposite, on the opposite end of the spectrum. I overcorrected, and it being a policy enforcer, and if you're tactful enough, you can navigate those conversations. And resident may not be happy, but they may not want to throw some negative reviews at you. My world got way more difficult. Those conversations were lasting longer. Email threads, just pages of email threads of back and forth. Sticking to your guns, it does take a little bit more time and effort.
Sounds exhausting.
It was very exhausting, and I ended up at another community where a nice part of town, high expectations, and a lot of customer service opportunities. This was another pivotal moment where I realized, this isn't working, and I'm trying to enforce all of these rules, and not focusing much on empathy and trying to make things work for the resident. And it was in over my head, trying to stick to my guns. And eventually, there was a moment where I was going back and forth with a resident about some blinds being installed in a lofted ceiling, and we didn't do that. And so I was sticking to my guns that we just don't do that. And then getting to the conversation of, well, it's going to cost you, and if you want to do that. And then eventually I get to the point where, well, I'm realizing, is it really worth it? Like, this dollar amount, this is what I'm fighting for. We've been going round and round on this topic over like the tiniest dollar amount. And, there's a moment there where you realize, like, if this is the cost, maybe it's not that bad. And just letting go. And then the resident was happy. So gave her the blinds, realized it wasn't going to take the guys long to install them. It didn't cost that much money, and the resident was happy. And it was a moment that kind of pulled me back in from, wow, customers going to get everything they want, to policy enforcer, and then kind of pulling the reins back in to find that balance, where you can have both. And so small moment, but very impactful to make you realize maybe where you're going wrong, and a very simple opportunity to make someone happy.
Yeah. So, it's kind of like a pick your battles type of a moment, right? Like, is it a fair housing issue? Is it a morality issue, or like an ethics issue, or like a clear violation? Not really. So why am I exhausting so much energy on myself, and then also ticking this person off, not creating a great, a customer advocate? Why am I doing that? It's like a light bulb, right? It's so interesting because, you know what, Jeremiah, also, and I appreciate you being vulnerable and being willing to share that, because I think that a lot of our listeners and or viewers can relate with that. I think a lot of people find it very challenging to find where that fine line is, right? Where is that balancing point? How do I enforce the rules and be a good fiduciary for my ownership, and also be a customer advocate at the same time? And like you said, it can be done. It just takes a little finesse. It takes a little tact, takes some empathy, was a word that you used. I think that's important too. And just some real thinking about what is the cost of this and what's the outcome. So yeah, that's a great story. And I think that will really resonate with a lot of people. So, and help them maybe not have to go through as much of the course correction process. Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, I think, it's interesting. Your journey has been a really interesting one. And I'm curious, sort of just like circling back to that maintenance side. And I'm wondering, like, from your perspective, having worked both in maintenance and in the office side of things, does customer service look like different from one side or the other? Or do you think it's pretty much, the same? Or what are your thoughts in that space, if any?
It's pretty much the same. There is a similar formula, and it's just being honest, being empathetic, communicating. And from the maintenance side, if everybody loves a good turnaround time when something is done quickly. It's impressive when someone can respond to a request or a concern that someone has, and you fix it. With the maintenance side, it could be a leaky faucet. They have a concern, they put in, and they're reaching out to you for help, and you go and you fix that leaky faucet. And then on the office side, it's the same thing. It's fast, good quality service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I hear you referencing, teamwork, right? Because it's teamwork. So on the office side, it can be really rewarding too, because you're fielding that information and communicating it internally through your team. Your team is executing on that really well. And so everybody is able to, participate in making that resident really happy.
Yeah.
And solve their issue. And it's like one of those things that, I think is so interesting about our industry in general is that, we're dealing with people's homes. So what's going on for them, that leaky faucet that you're talking about is like, it's to them, it could be just that straw that breaks the camel's back, right? Everything else could be going on in their life with their family, with their job, with their social life, whatever could be crumbling, right? And they want to go home and feel at peace and feel, like nurtured, or they want their home to be their calm, peaceful place. And if that darn sink is leaking, that could be like that one thing that just is pushing them over the edge. So to be able to go and make that repair and fix that for them, you can really have a profound impact on people's lives by doing something that is, somewhat innocuous, right? Through some lenses. So I think that's just one of the beautiful things about our industry is we do have that opportunity to make a profound impact on people's lives every single day because we're dealing with their homes.
Yeah. I do want to circle back to what you said earlier about it takes a team. And then even earlier, you're talking about, the customer being maybe not just the resident, but could be coworkers. Navigating the reporting of that leaky faucet to office and then submitting that service request and communicating with maintenance about the leaky faucet and maybe navigating conversations about how they feel about this leaky faucet, and then getting through that to get to the service and the resident. Um, there's so many layers to the customer service, and navigating that. It takes more than just step one, they put it in, step two, we fix it. It's a lot of communication between your team. And so yeah, I thought that was a great perspective on, customer could be your coworker, and maybe getting them on board, or the idea that if we can get this knocked out, this person's going to be happy, this customer's going to be happy, and that happens, you can make someone a believer.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's what's like, we work together to make somebody else happy, and then we get happy too by it. So, I mean, it's like a reciprocal cycle, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So, Jeremiah, kind of in closing, I would love to ask you, now that you've been doing this for a while, you had a really unique beginning in this industry with having experienced a bunch of perspectives. You had the educational piece from the Ball State Residential Property Management Program. And then you've had a variety of increasing responsibility roles through your current company with Widener Apartment Homes. What advice do you have for someone who's maybe starting out in this industry to help them, or maybe advice that you wish maybe you would have gotten before you started out in this industry?
The best advice that I could give is something that I've done for myself recently, actually, kind of pen to paper, was that saying, the customer is always right, tends to be a little bit outdated. And because the customer service bar in general has just risen to a whole new level, and it may seem like there's fewer and fewer opportunities to be able to surprise a customer with customer service. And instead of it just you delivering on something that they might just expect. So go into the customer service field, realizing that there's still opportunities to be able to do something for a resident. Maybe it's as simple as just making it easy. The resident or customer might just be, ready to go to battle over a request that they're an inconvenience that they might have, and you just make it easy, and that's a surprise to them. And what I've done recently is tweak that phrase a little bit from "the customer's always right" to something like "the customer is always right to feel the way that they feel." And that really, that really changes your perspective, because when you think the customer is always right, and I thought about this because I think you may have seen this on a post on LinkedIn. I really wish I had that the information for a reference, but someone posted, well, what happens if the customer's actually wrong? Like, what do you do then?
Oh yeah.
And so, which is so true, because it proves the customer's not always right. But what happens with the customer's always right, you get into this thought of, well, no, you're not right. And you get to this who's right and who's wrong, back and forth. But if you put that little piece of customer's always right to feel the way that they feel, you got to ask yourself, who are you to tell that customer they're wrong to feel the way that they feel? That's their natural feeling to whatever information they're receiving, or their experience, their inconvenience. And it gets you out of that, who's right and who's wrong, to this person's upset. Maybe there's something that I can do. And that opens up a whole new world of, options for you to be able to deliver some great customer service.
Jeremiah Gonzalez, mic drop, boom. Yeah. Great. That's so well put and great perspective. Thank you very much for sharing that. And thank you very much for sharing your time and experiences with me today on CX Unplugged on the Multifamily Media Network. Jeremiah, if anyone would like to reach out to you to get more of your perspective on the multifamily industry as a whole or customer experience, how can they reach out to you?
I have a LinkedIn page with my personal contact info.
Okay.
So
it's Jeremiah Gonzalez.
Let's connect.
Yeah. All right. Terrific. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And with that concludes our episode today on CX Unplugged. I hope you'll join us next time for more interesting conversations about the world of customer experience on the Multifamily Media Network. Take care. See you next time.
CX Unplugged, where we have redefined who your customer really is. Join me next time to hear more missteps and masterful manifestations in the world of multifamily customer experience. Brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network.